What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. If you've been following the news surrounding LoR since the start of the year, then you know that a lot of things have changed. The team was downsized, they are now working closer with the League of Legends, TFT and Wild Rift teams, and most notably, they've pivoted toward PvE once again, with Dreamlit Path being our last PvP expansion and the focus now being on bringing existing champions to Path of Champions and introducing new constellations and challenges. And if you've watched any of my previous videos, you might have realized that Path of Champions wasn't really something I brought up at all, and that's because back then the focus was still on PvP expansions. But now with the team having fewer resources than ever and focusing on PvE, the number of new cards and brand new champions being introduced is, well, zero at the moment, which makes predictions like the ones I used to make really hard. For example, in January, before we had any info on the upcoming content and before the layoffs, this was my prediction for new champions and expansions in 2024. These obviously no longer make sense. As Huma mentioned last month, instead of looking at what champions aren't in LoR yet, it now makes more sense to look at what champions aren't in Path of Champions yet. And to be honest, that's not really something I'm super interested in or excited about. So these prediction videos that I've been making for like 3 years now will probably become a bit more rare on this channel. Moving on, in February, Eric Chen, the executive producer on LoR, mentioned how future champions will be designed for Path of Champions, and therefore might not be balanced for PvP. This means that the team will still release new champions, which is cool, but those champions might be exclusive to PvE. This also aligns with what Dave Gaskin said in the State of the Game video.
This upcoming set that's releasing soon is going to be our last set as players currently know them. That doesn't mean we're not going to be releasing more champions, but it does mean that we're going to be changing the focus to be more on those champions in the Path of Champions.
After the Dreamlit Paths expansion, I actually wrote a prediction video about who the upcoming champion could be. Unfortunately, because of college, I couldn't really make that video at the time, but if you were following me on Twitter, which you should by the way, then you already know that I was inhaling that fiddlestick scopium. I won't mention our favorite demon again in this video, but if anyone's interested, I'm down to make a video fully dedicated to him. But now, let's move on to things I think are more likely right now than Fiddle. This year was the first one since 2020 where the 4 Runeterra titles didn't share a big cross-promotional event. We had Spirit Blossom in 2020, Sentinels of Light in 2021, Star Guardian in 2022, Soul Fighter in 2023, but nothing in 2024, and there are good reasons for that. The first reason is, according to Wild Rift's executive producer, that these events are harder to pull off due to having multiple teams working simultaneously, while not really being more successful than standalone events. The other reason is that this year we'll see the release of the new season of Arcane, so it makes sense for the big cross-promotional event to happen around that time. And I know this might contradict what I just said, but for most cross-promotional events that we got, the teams got together and developed an event from the ground up based on a thematic, while Arcane is something that is already going to happen, and the teams are just going to celebrate it. Even if the end result is still a cross-promotional event, the logistics behind it are slightly different. Also, it's Arcane. It's like Riot's Golden Goose. They have to celebrate it everywhere. In a dev video in January, the League team confirmed that Ambessa is coming to League as a champion, alongside an Arcane-inspired update for another champion, as well as other stuff like cosmetics. In the same month, the Wild Rift team also confirmed that Ambessa is coming to that game, and again, alongside a bunch of Arcane-related stuff. As for LoR, in the State of the Game video, the team did hint at an Arcane adventure coming to Path of Champions, so it's safe to assume that LoR will also be part of this year's Arcane event.
Yeah.
And when Arcane comes out later this year, anything we're thinking there?
I mean, you know, never say never, but definitely Lissandra might be quaking in her boots of what we have coming after that.
And this could very well mean that Ambessa is coming to LoR. She could possibly be the final boss of a new adventure, similarly to Lissandra. Side note, but it would also be cool to have those Arcane adventures back, since those are now unavailable. We still don't know who's getting the Arcane-inspired update in League of Legends, but some people have been speculating that it might be Viktor. This could make sense, as Viktor is also not in Wild Rift yet, meaning he could release in that game at the same time with a new look and gameplay. And now that LoR has introduced new versions of champions, with the release of Lux Illuminated, we might see a new version of Viktor joining the game. Assuming that Viktor is the one getting the update, of course, which we still have no confirmation on. At the moment, I do believe Viktor is quite likely, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it was Singed instead, for example. And if you wanna inhale some copium with me, the official Legends of Runeterra account interacted with Spectral, which you might have seen under their posts begging for Warwick to be added to the game. Warwick is making his debut in Arcane this year, so maybe he's also coming to LoR, who knows. Having him him as a final boss of an adventure could also make sense. With PvP not being the priority, I don't know if 3 champion expansions still make sense. It would probably make more sense for the team to use the Wild Rift approach and release champions one at a time instead. If this happens, then the LoR champions, if they are actually real, could be released at the same time as in Wild Rift and League of Legends. Well, Ambessa and the updated champion at least. I recently made a thread on Twitter going over the possible timeline for those champion releases, so check it out if you're interested. So there you have it, Ambessa alongside a new version of Viktor, or whoever the champion getting the update is, and maybe, just maybe, Warwick. Do you agree with this prediction? Let me know down below, and also let me know if you want me to talk about Fiddlesticks possibly coming to LoR sometime in the future. I recently created a Ko-fi account, so if you want to support me there, feel free, and if not, don't worry, you can always like or leave a comment on this video. That also helps a lot. With this being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.